Welcome to the 411 on 420. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis.
And I'm Amy Ansel, your cannabis partner strategist.
Hey, thanks for joining us today and every Saturday from noon to 1 when we talk about the business of cannabis and giving you the news and information you can use to make an informed decision about an ever-growing and budding industry.
It certainly is budding there.
Oh, yes, it is. It's actually taking on a new strain of opportunities throughout the entire United States. Things are happening. Things are popping up all over. You know, we're sprouting at things and everywhere, all over the place. How do you like all these puns?
That's right. I know. Ba-dum-bum. I feel like I need to say that.
We are having a good time over here thinking about all the different opportunities that an industry that has been basically suppressed and sidelined. However, you know, it's been sidelined for quite a while and so forth, but it's actually coming out and actually sprouting new leaves and buds and so forth and taking on a new life. And we're happy to actually talk to you and other people out there throughout the United States and maybe other countries as well, to talk about what is happening in this industry to, make changes to not only economic development, social development, eco development, all those different things, and give you facts and information that you can use about, like I said, a controversial issue.
That's right. Facts from leaders, facts from the people that are helping create the laws or, you know, implementing them. And it's important that we hear things from the horse's mouth.
Oh, yeah. Not that we're going to have many horses here, but the fertilizer's awesome.
That's what we hear.
Hey, well, anyway, no joke. But before we ever do that, what we like to do is we like to think about our nation's veterans. We want you, in the short form, is to think about our nation's veterans. They are coming out of the services after a very long stint of helping to protect our country, to protect our rights and our freedoms, and give us the things that we have taken for granted over the number of years that we have been citizens. We grow up here, we become naturalized here, we become the greatest nation on the planet Earth. And we've had that opportunity because of our nation's veterans. We have, they've given us independence, which is phenomenal. We have that opportunity, which no other country around the world has it in the way that we do. They've gained our trust. They provide the opportunity to give us the things security, the things that we do. So when they leave the service, what we need to do is see what we can do to give them an opportunity to continue to support themselves as they supported us to get where we are today.
That's right. A level up, not a handout, a hand up. And, you know, if we think about it, these people have received some of the most sophisticated training and leadership experience available.
They are, man. They get stuff done.
They get it done, and they've been trained quite well. I mean, if you can bounce a quarter off a bed, my hat's off to you.
No doubt about it. But they just it doesn't matter what the task is and what the opportunities are. It's about, hey, this is the objective. Go out there, get her done, and so forth, and work with all the people you can to get her done. So it really doesn't mean that, you know, you were just Larry the Cable Guy, get her done kind of stuff. But You're talking about somebody that knows how to adapt and overcome and get things to achieve and reach the goal, because that is it. What is the goal? What is the objective? What do we need to accomplish?
And is it executed sloppily, or is it executed with pride, with humility, with the spirit that it was given in?
Yeah, and you know what? That's what, you know, what do you want to look for in your employees, that kind of thing, to represent you and make sure that you grow. I haven't seen a single person that I've ever met that has hired a veteran that hasn't said, thank you for turning me on to this opportunity and helping me get these individuals in my organization.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
so, and if you're not in the business of hiring a vet, but you want to use a product or service or something like that, our nation's veterans, many of them have started their own companies. And so you can go out to the Department of Veterans Affairs in the state of Washington and other states as well, and you can look up veteran-owned businesses and then, you know, solicit your business, or actually let them provide proposals and so forth to earn your business, whether that be to fix your car, build your house, build the deck, fix your plumbing, or whatever the case may be. Or, you know, hey, go out to their store and purchase your products and services that you need there.
That's right. If you think about it, there's a built-in Rolodex right there for you. So check that out. Also, if you're a veteran and you're looking for resources, there are so many resources out there, from financial institutions to technology, and to even the coffee industry with Starbucks. Lots of companies out there.
Well, we're going to promote those people again. Go for it.
I met my husband at Starbucks. I can say that all I want.
Yeah. No, you can't.
But hey, check it out. There's lots of corporations and resources out there that want to empower the vet and empower the veteran's family.
Okay.
So let's talk about that.
We will, but right now, we are here to talk about the business of cannabis. So thank you very much. Today, we really are passionate about our veterans. Thank you.
We are.
But we could go on about that all day, and we could spend the whole hour talking about it, but we need to get on to our show and talk about the things that we came here to talk about. So this week, we've tackled lots of different opportunities and things, and this week we're going to talk about industrial hemp. And that is a controversial subject. Actually, it shouldn't be, but it is, which blows me away.
It's surprising it's controversial.
Yeah, it kind of blows me away as well.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is, and so we have to take things at where they are at today.
That's right. Let's dissect it
and move ourselves forward. So we have. We're going to come back after this break, and we're going to talk to Scott STAFNE, and he is an attorney with STAFNE Trumbull, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about what it is that is going on in the industry, what it is that constitutionally speaking and so forth that we can do, and all those kinds of things. But he'll join us after these short messages. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis,
and I'm Amy Ansel, your cannabis partner strategist.
We'll be right back after these messages.
AimBiz.com brings you the life of a business website. The majority of business websites can't be found by search engines, so their owners lose customers and money. An AIM business website wins new customers on Google and Facebook. Imagine your website with great content management, an integrated blog, clean designs, and clear messages. To top it off, at AimBiz.com, you get a free website design mock-up before you ever spend a dime. For more information, go to AimBiz.com. That's AIMBIZ.com.
Sweatman Young is proud to celebrate 25 years of construction service throughout South Puget Sound, working together with you to guarantee your satisfaction and offer you a unique 2-year warranty on all work. Let Sweatman Young build your new dream home, remodel your existing home, add an additional deck, outdoor kitchen, a man cave, or even preserve your historic home. Sweatman Young provides the best construction value in South Puget Sound. Visit sweatmanyoung.com today and schedule your free consultation with Bill Sweatman, your personal professional contractor.
Ever get a traffic ticket? Had a bill you couldn't collect? Had a contract you needed advice about, such as a new insurance plan, home, or car loan? We run into these situations routinely throughout our lives. We know we need legal advice, but feel we just can't afford hiring an expensive attorney to help. Legal Shield and your legal team is now your affordable option, allowing each of us to rest assured we can quickly get the help we need for one low monthly fee. Whether it's business or personal legal advice, visit yourlegalteam.info today.
Welcome to the 411 on 420. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis.
Hey, I'm Amy Ansel, your cannabis partner strategist.
Thanks for joining us every Saturday from noon to 1. Today we have Scott STAFNE joining us. Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
Hey, Scott, as I said before the break, is an attorney with STAFNE and Trumbull. He is in Arlington, Washington. He has been practicing law since 1974. You know, he told me 74, and I thought, my God, you're old. No, 1974. He's got a long-standing history of, fighting for the little guy and going out and taking on very large organizations to say, this is the right of the little guy, and so forth. So Scott is very well versed in understanding industrial hemp and then the movement for cannabis and so on and so forth. Most recently, and he's got several things going out there, but there are lawsuits that are, people may have heard of. I know that you've been in many things. One of those things being, I remember the Bank of America. You want to talk a little bit about what happened there, because that one's pretty notable.
Sure, but first I want to point out that I'm now with STAFNE Law Firm, and Josh and I are in different law firms.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. My apologies.
No
We'll cut
problem.
that out.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Whatever.
Uh-huh.
So the Bank of America lawsuit was one in which a Bank of America subsidiary, Recon Trust, was acting as a trustee and taking someone's home, and a trustee is supposed to be an impartial judge. And so we just pointed out it's hard to say Recon Trust, which is wholly owned by Bank of America, would be a neutral trustee or someone like a judge that you would want to determine whether Bank of America could take your house, and that particular judge agreed with us.
Well, that's actually kind of big. I mean, so what was the outcome of that?
Eventually, the case settled, but the judge ordered that the house be given back.
Just one or all of them? I'm just curious.
He only had one house.
Oh, okay. I was thinking
his house.
Okay, but then but going against Bank of America could not have been an inexpensive opportunity. I mean, they do have a lot of deep pockets. Just thinking.
Well, yeah, and the way the banks work in today's world is they'll spend $1 million to take over a $50,000 house because they don't want the homeowners to have any victories. They want everyone in America, including lawyers, to know that you can't win against them. So they've taken kind of that independence that you were talking about and that makes America great. They've taken a lot of that away, in my view.
Well, and, you're the guy out there fighting for it in the courts and so forth. But today we're talking about industrial hemp, and that is an interesting concept because it was illegal to grow industrial hemp, and that's kind of crazy because as doing a lot of research on it recently, I've been finding that industrial hemp is no different than hay or alfalfa, so to speak. It doesn't have any kind of it's a lot different than cannabis and THC and marijuana. So isn't there a big distinction between the two, Scott?
Yeah, there's a huge distinction. And hemp has always been grown, it was grown at the time of the Revolutionary War. It was grown before the Revolutionary War. The problem is that it's a plant that has a wide variety of uses and a wide variety of chemical compositions.
Well, but it was grown way back then for lots of different things, more than just rope, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always been used for a variety of purposes.
Okay.
But you're right. It's like, hey, I mean, there's a bill in the Washington legislature, HB 1268, which would allow it to be grown as an eco-friendly and readily available source of livestock feed for chickens, pigs, horses, and other livestock. I mean,
that's interesting you talk about that because right now, as we speak, I mean, this show is going to air, but then, other people are going to hear this afterwards and so forth. But House Bill 1552 for the state of Washington is talking about the rules and regulations for the Department of Agriculture, or actually no, that's House Bill 1268 is going to be talking about using industrial hemp as feed for livestock. So they're doing a study on that right now to see if it's actually doable. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense, and I think there's really not a whole lot of need for a study because it's been done before since time immemorial, and I think that the legislature should get on with legalizing industrial hemp. Well, it can help our economy.
If we look back, though, a little bit and we go, okay, why are we here in the first place? I mean, really, what is it that actually puts us here? So back in, 1937 or so, we got industrial hemp was kind of a lumped in with cannabis, and so then we had a prohibition for cannabis, marijuana tax law, and so forth. So we ended up making it illegal for hemp and marijuana to be grown in the United States at that point in time. And there was kind of an economic reason for that. Do you know anything about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the thing between Tesla and Edison.
Yes.
There were different groups that wanted to make money.
And when you talk about Tesla and Edison, what do you mean by that?
Okay, well, Tesla had invented a system that of electricity and communication that would be cheap and actually a better product than Edison.
Actually, I think it was free.
Yeah.
It was actually cheap as cheap as you can get, because he actually thought that he could make Wi-Fi electricity across the entire U.S. Our world anyway.
Well, that's the end of that.
Exactly. If someone can't make money off it, they don't want to do it.
And so GE was
Morgan Chase
okay.
went and backed Edison so it could make money.
Oh yeah, because Edison said, "Hey, I've got General Electric," and said, "Okay, excuse me, but I could make these power plants happening with hydroelectricity and everything else." And you're talking about free versus that? Not a good idea, right? Not if you're chasing the money.
Right, and that's what happened with industrial hemp and marijuana. I mean, hemp had been used to make the actual Model Ts that Ford put out. I mean,
the initial ones, yeah, way back in the day.
I mean, and it was a great product, but DuPont was around and had kind of a competitive product, and so they had an interest in promoting their plastic. And so what happened is, once again, the American people get screwed by industries trying to take money from them.
Okay, but when we're talking about, let's go back to the root a little bit farther, if you will, because plastics are what makes a plastic. I mean, what are they? From a DuPont perspective, not from a industrial hemp perspective. From a DuPont perspective, doesn't that start with some kind of petroleum product?
It does.
So we're talking about, okay, even going back farther. So not just DuPont, but they're just converting a petroleum product, which is basically back to oil again.
Right.
And
It's
biodegradable.
So an oil is not biodegradable, right? It's actually it doesn't break down the same as hemp does when it's no longer being used or recyclable in the same way or anything like that. All right, well, we have some recyclable plastics, but it still takes a lot of energy to do so. But be that as it may, we're talking about an industry that it comes back to the root of it is oil.
Well, that's the foundation. I mean, Scott, is that something that you're finding is the biggest push for industrial hemp because of the environmental impact it makes?
And because now farmers are realizing that they can make a lot of money. I mean, it's an economical crop that could work to the benefit of the farmers of America, and they're looking at what's going on in the world. Right now, the biggest producer of hemp, which is actually helpful environmentally, is China. And
boy, do they need it to clean up that air.
Yeah, well, they sure do, but we need it here in America. What they were able to do is convince the federal government to make all hemp have to be imported into the United States, which, when you think about it, it's kind of stupid, because in every Whole Foods store, or you go to the stores, you see hemp oil.
Oh, yeah, it's coming from Canada, it's coming from China, it's coming from somewhere else. It's not coming from the U.S.
Yeah, because of the deal that was made to protect the gas industry a while back. And that's probably why we don't have better cars. When you look at what the cell phone has replaced, all the technology, and you can see what can be done, why do we still have these ancient gas cars?
Oh, exactly. We're just now. I mean, what is it? It's been 100 years since the gas engine was invented, or so, and we're still using it in pretty much the same configuration with just some tweaks or whatever, as it was back in the day. Even probably less gas mileage than it was then.
Well, I do see some progression in Tesla.
But no, that's
back,
actually
right?
Tesla is just
Nissan
now
Leaf.
Those things are just now coming out.
Just now coming out.
Yeah, because we have an environmental, and because the price of oil was way high. We were paying over $5 a gallon when all that stuff came out. But now gas is popping down below $1 a gallon.
Two very fascinating documentaries. One is called Gas Hole, and the other one is called Who Killed the Electric Car? Those two documentaries, Scott, have you seen either of those?
I haven't.
Okay.
I've seen each one of those things, and they are basically Who Killed the Electric Car. It's all about the oil industry doing just that.
And buying the battery and shelving it.
Oh, exactly, because and those are not us being kind of conspiracy theorists or anything like that.
No,
They're
we're
just
watching documentaries.
Yeah, they're just protecting their interests and so forth. But those interests are not in the best interest, if you will, of the
greater good.
The greater good is a good way to put that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. If you take the example of a garden, the plants grow toward the sun where they get their sustenance. But the way we've got our world set up, people have to slide toward the money. And so, like for me, if I wanted to devote my practice of law just to justice, I couldn't do so because you have to have money in this world to survive. So it kind of tilts the whole paradigm in a manner that's not looking for what is best as a matter of purpose or intention, but who gets to make the money. And so we're starting to have to look at that. You see it with Tesla, you see it with Edison, and now you see it with what people get to do with their property, grow on their fields. I mean, at some point we've got to start wondering, is all this regulation good, or has it really come to a point where it's just to make wealthy people more wealthy?
Well, we're talking about constitutional issues and so forth. And one of the reasons I brought you on here, because I know you're a constitutional attorney, you really do look at the Constitution. You've actually had a run for office for the Supreme Court and made a run at that and so forth. Maybe in the future you may do it again. I don't know. I'm not really privy to your plans. But what I do know is that you can be trusted to understand the Constitution. And it doesn't seem to me in our last conversations that you think that this is very constitutional to ban an industrial. What are the reasonings? Do they have any constitutional reason, do you believe, to enforce a ban or to create a ban on industrial hemp?
Well, of course, we have two constitutions. We have the Washington Constitution that applies in Washington, and then, of course, the United States Constitution, which trumps all laws in the United States.
Okay, so break that down a little bit for me.
I will. So basically, there's a concept called substantive due process, which, although it's been eroded a little bit over time, it stands for the proposition that you can't have irrational or arbitrary and capricious laws. And Washington Constitution substantive due process is stronger than it is under the federal Constitution. So let's look at what has happened with cannabis. The state has legalized recreational cannabis, which means the cannabis that gets you high. But they have left illegal industrial cannabis, which basically doesn't make you high, and more importantly, there's no reason for it to be illegal. It doesn't fall within the parameters. So in the context of industrial use or even for CBD use, which is helpful as a medicine, it makes no sense to have cannabis be legalized if it can make you high and cause all sorts of harms, and then say the stuff that would just do good for the people of the state and not harm them anyway is illegal. So I think you have a good substantive due process challenge with regard to that. And if you go back and read the Supreme Court's opinion in Gonzalez v. Reich.
What's that? What was that about, Gonzalez v. Reich?
It was about medical marijuana and whether or not restricting it violated the Commerce Clause. So it was a narrow issue.
Okay,
And-
well, hey, just a second. We've got to take a break real quick, and remember, hold that thought right there. We'll come back after these short messages, and we'll finish off right there, we'll move on. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis.
And I'm Amy Ansel, your cannabis partner strategist.
We'll be right back with a little bit more of the 411 on 420. And now, your Management Minute with Doug Kirkpatrick, author of Beyond Empowerment, The Age of the Self-Managed Organization.
Every business has an obligation to professionally manage the activities and resources under its control. Professional management is a fiduciary obligation to the stakeholders of a business, which include customers, suppliers, employees, local community, regulatory agencies, the environment, investors, and in fact everyone affected by the activities of a business. The planning function is commonly known as strategy, which requires an understanding of why you're in this business to begin with. Whether you're already in business or just thinking about starting a business, you need to ask yourself some key questions. 1. What is it that I can do better than anyone else? 2. What is the value proposition that I bring to prospective customers? And 3. What do I want this business to do for me? Your answers to these critical questions will go far toward determining success or failure.
AIMBiz.com brings you the life of a business website. The majority of business websites can't be found by search engines, so their owners lose customers and money. An AIM business website wins new customers on Google and Facebook. Imagine your website with great content management, an integrated blog, clean designs, and clear messages. To top it off, at AIMBiz.com, you get a free website design mock-up before you ever spend a dime. For more information, go to AIMBiz.com. That's AIMBIZ.com.
Sweatman Young is proud to celebrate 25 years of construction service throughout South Puget Sound, working together with you to guarantee your satisfaction and offer you a unique 2-year warranty on all work. Let Sweatman Young build your new dream home, remodel your existing home, add an additional deck, outdoor kitchen, a man cave, or even preserve your historic home. Sweatman Young provides the best construction value in South Puget Sound. Visit sweatmanyoung.com today and schedule your free consultation with Bill Sweatman, your personal professional contractor.
Ever get a traffic ticket? Had a bill you couldn't collect? Had a contract you needed advice about, such as a new insurance plan, home, or car loan? We run into these situations routinely throughout our lives. We know we need legal advice, but feel we just can't afford hiring an expensive attorney to help. Legal Shield and your legal team is now your affordable option, allowing each of us to rest assured we can quickly get the help we need for one low monthly fee. Whether it's business or personal legal advice, visit yourlegalteam.info today.
Welcome back to the 411 on 420. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis.
And I'm Amy Ansel, your cannabis partner strategist.
Hey, thanks for joining us today and every Saturday from noon to 1 when we talk about news and information you can use on the business of cannabis. We are here today with Scott STAFNE, and he is talking to us about the constitutionality and the law regarding industrial hemp. And Scott, we were talking about a lawsuit here just recently for cannabis, and what was that again? Gonzalez v. Wright, wasn't it?
Yes, and
Okay.
that lawsuit was actually more like in 2004, 2005, and the Supreme Court held that that the federal government could regulate the medical use of marijuana through the Controlled Substances Act. But what was interesting about that case is it got remanded then back to the Ninth Circuit, which considered a substantive due process argument, and basically said, well, look, we realize that things can change, and they actually got into the issue of, it wasn't gay marriage at that time, but the Supreme Court had invalidated sodomy laws based on the fact that they were they didn't exist in most states anymore, and they said that there had been a change in the way things were done. And
so in other words, people evolved from the initial practice, if you will. I mean, those things are we grew, we became knowledgeable, and so forth, and our the way that we thought and the educational process of people actually has evolved over time.
Yes, exactly right. And they suggested back in 2005, I think is when they reviewed the Supreme Court's decision on remand, that it may well be that the same will happen for medical marijuana. And it may well be a time to do that, but we're not even talking about medical marijuana.
Now we're talking just industrial
hemp. Something like hay. We're talking like something like alfalfa. I mean, why in the world can't farmers grow it? And we should, when we talk about that, we should also talk about something that you've told me about, and that's the ecological and environmental benefits of industrial hemp.
Well, if we think about that from let's just run down a few of those I'm thinking about, just from the previous shows that we've had and from our conversation with other professionals and people who are in the know, so to speak. And we're not just talking about ourselves or anything like that, but in the past, the economic benefits of industrial hemp have been as feed for livestock, as you say, and we're actually now in the process of going through a study to see if it's actually viable again, that's House Bill 1268. And then we're House Bill 1552 is to say, hey, let's make some rules and regulations for managing that through the Department of Agriculture. And then there is another House bill, which I don't know the number of that, but it's about, if we do that, is it going to be through, I think that might be 1552, whether we manage it through the Department of Agriculture or is it through the Department of Liquor and Cannabis Board. So which one does this industrial hemp get managed through? Which to me, it sounds more like an agricultural product altogether. But lastly, the Senate Bill 5012, if you will, actually has some thing to talk about a study from WSU. So they want to have Washington State University do a study on the actual viability of a crop in using industrial hemp as a crop in the state of Washington. Given now all that information, we've already talked about other countries. We've got China, we've got Germany, we've got Canada. Where else?
France, Italy.
And all these other countries are allowing industrial hemp to proliferate within their borders at no problem whatsoever. So they're actually garnering a big share of the market and taking over all these different opportunities, which those opportunities, as we say, from economic perspective, could be back again to, you talked about plastics. I mean, we can make plastics in there. That's pretty near and dear to here locally. I'll get to that.
And houses, too. I mean, they make hempcrete.
Hempcrete, so like solid houses and so forth using hempcrete.
Well, let's just talk about the benefits of hempcrete, right?
Well, not.
Do we know these things?
I don't want to go into that right now. I want to go all the different things. I want to talk about the fact that there's textiles, there's building supplies, which is hempcrete, essential oils, nutrition, fatty acids, omegas, proteins, and calcium and iron.
Paper, rope.
And then not only that, but the use of the plant to extract toxicity from the soil, so that we can do industrial cleanup as well using that.
They did that in Chernobyl.
Exactly. So and then again about the plastics, and then and then the O2 release, because we're talking about cleaning up. We have a huge problem with regards to deforestation around the planet, and we cut down trees, and it takes this is a replacement for trees pretty much. And
this is
doesn't it make sense?
110 days, reaching 20 feet high in the air, in letting off tons of oxygen and replenishing the soil.
And then
so we need a study for that.
And then cultivating it, instead of waiting 30 years, planting a tree, waiting 30 years and getting some wood out of it, we can make how many different crops in that 30 years?
And feed the people, feed the animals, feed the earth.
Think about that from an economic standpoint and from an environmental standpoint,
right,
as well. But locally speaking, now I do want to hit this one because this is really big on a local from a city of Tacoma.
Hit it home, Daryl.
So right now, we are talking about a methanol plant being put into the heart of our city right in the port, and that's a very large, multi-billion-dollar plant being stuck right in the center of our city. In the port, which includes a 10-mile natural gas pipeline underground to get to it. Now, we are in an earthquake zone. That's a fact. And we
live next to a volcano.
We live next to a volcano. Small. Well, what a concept.
What are you doing here, huh?
and we're going to put this near and then we're going to put this multi-billion-dollar plant right down in the heart of a city where we have just down the road. I mean, and when I talk about from a geological standpoint, LA is just down the road. So,
yeah, I can drive it in one day.
So we're talking about right down there. They have a methanol plant that is leaking and has been for several months and is causing, they cannot shut that leak down. And so what it's causing is a lot of contamination, homes having to be evacuated for miles around. For tens of thousands of people are having to evacuate their homes. And so the environment's being screwed up, the people are being poisoned, and it's just not a very good idea if you think about it from that perspective when we have a plant that can do everything there. And from the methanol perspective, that gas is actually being extracted using a fracking method to go out, and fracking, if anybody understands the concept of fracking, what happens there is you can't get the oils and the lubricants for the planet, if you will, from deep within the earth. They've already extracted the easy stuff, and so now getting those micro pieces and so forth are done by sticking chemicals in and getting them to sucking them out and bringing them out into these pipelines and so forth. Which, by the way, leaves...
So it sounds like rocket science.
Well, we leave chemicals in the plant to contaminate the groundwater, which is a bad thing for all the people that live around a fracking and so forth. Now, to go just a tad further, here we are sticking a multi-billion-dollar plant in the middle of a city that has potential for all kinds of problems, given the fact that we're in this hazard zone, so to speak. Now, all of that, and then it requires fresh water. And not just a little bit of fresh water, but it requires the equivalent of 50% of the entire population of the city of Tacoma, their water usage. So that
unbelievable
in an area that even though it rains up here, we have water shortages. We have had problems with the climate change and so forth. So our mountain isn't as full as it used to be. So the water isn't coming down like it used to all the time. And so now we're saying, let's go add another, small city. In the middle of a city, because basically what that means, we're going to take this water usage and increase it by 50% overnight and say, okay, well, the rest of you people out there, hey, sorry. That's just really not a very smart move on our part. I just don't see it.
Sounds like Tesla versus Edison once again.
It does.
Exactly.
It does. And so there's a big uproar about that when there is a plant, if you will. And then, by the way, and what that does, the methanol that we're talking about gets taken, and once it's the natural gas and everything else is converted over to methanol, what happens is that gets shipped to China, and then they use that to create plastic.
Wow.
So we're doing this all in the name of creating plastic.
Whereas the hemp plastic is biodegradable.
So you notice all the environmental issues and so forth around a planet, which we only have one. I'm not trying to be an eco warrior or anything like that, but last time I looked, we only got one planet, and we're trying to do everything we can to poison it. And here we have an alternative opportunity, which is safe. Cleans up the air, sucks out the toxic waste out of the soil, and converts this stuff into plastic, which is biodegradable.
I have a question
How's that
for
weird?
Scott then. So as we lag behind and watch Canada, England, China, France, Italy, Germany, all these countries flourish with their industrial hemp initiatives, how can we catch up to their
the production?
Yeah. Is there any chance?
What happens if we don't? What happens if we don't?
Already exists. I mean, there's no reason to study. There's reason to allow the farmers in Washington to grow the crop. That's why I think the Washington Hemp Commission says, tell your legislators that you oppose SB 5012. We don't need another roadblock in the establishment of a viable hemp industry in the state of Washington.
Yeah, from what I understand,
Actually,
that's not
we
even
need to move
funded.
on.
That's not even a funded initiative. I mean, that Senate bill doesn't have any funding, so we're going to put it out there, and so until it gets funding, it'll just sit there, meaning that it's not going to get done because nobody can fund it.
Now, why do you think that legislation even exists? Is it to help the people, or is it to help some special interests that don't want hemp to move forward? The same special interests that stopped it and prevented it from moving forward since the 30s.
Well, you would think that if they wanted it to actually be a viable study for reality's sake, that if
they'd fund it,
then that would be funded. Exactly. I mean, give me some money and say, listen, we'll move this forward. Here's a $500,000, whatever the number is, and say, here, study it. Tell us what it. Come back by X date and say this is what were your findings. But we're not getting that. We're saying, you go do it, and then maybe in 10 years we'll give you the money. You'll figure it out, come up with the cash, and then we'll move on.
Okay, I have another one for Scott then. We're talking about state legislation. We're talking about federal. What are your thoughts and comments on the United Nations and what we're doing as a, global village per se?
Well, part of the problem stems from a treaty they probably put through the United Nations. I mean, the Controlled Substance Act is part of a treaty, and so there are international ramifications. It's interesting that in 2014 they had a little provision in the Farm Bill Act that allowed states to legalize industrial hemp. But I mean, there are voices out there that say that allowing states to have medical marijuana or any type of cannabis sativa violates treaty rights. And then you get into the constitutionality of treaties versus laws, and it appears that the latest enacted will control. But yeah, it's very complicated, and I can't tell you that I know the various ins and outs when we get to international law. But again, it was the same elite that got it outlawed in the United States that also managed to pass through a treaty that bears on these issues as well.
Are these 6 countries breaking treaties?
They may well be. I mean, I have seen legal papers that says the United States, by allowing recreational use, perhaps even medical use, violates a controlled substance treaty.
Well, so that would mean Israel has been breaking it since the mid-'90s with Dr. Meshulam treating PTS with the hilltops of Galilee growing. So
that's true. I mean, I'm just saying there are issues out there, and I don't see where the United Nations, and hopefully I'm wrong, I'd love to be wrong on this, but I don't see where they're leading any charge to really make the planet more sustainable. I mean, they've got Agenda 21, which I guess it's also known now as...
What's that? What's Agenda 21?
Agenda 21 is a program that they adopted in the 60s where they require municipalities and like Tacoma and counties to enact certain restrictions on people's rights to promote what they call sustainability. They talk about maximum sustainable yield, and there's big movement against.
And what would be the reason for that? I mean, I don't understand why you would, you would do that. What? So give me some, some.
Well, I can tell you when I practiced fisheries law, they use the maximum sustainable yield concept.
Okay.
So, and you understand what that is.
Yes, I mean, we can only handle so many fish, and the rest go to waste, and blah blah blah.
Right.
Okay.
And
not
so
that blah 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 is a bad thing.
Do it. They use a good, just like they passed the the law against hemp and they did the Edison thing. I mean, they make something up that sounds good, but then when you look into what's going on, you have questions. And I know that I've looked at what's going on with regard to Agenda 21, as have many people, and we've got questions. Yeah, we like sustainability. We want a better planet. But then look what they did with hemp. And I bet you dollars to donuts, and I hope I'm wrong, that the UN's not leading any charge to help promote the growth of industrial hemp, even though it would be good for the planet.
Yeah, there are lots of plants that have gone by the wayside on that one. Given, and I think we need to start exploring more of that green technology. This is just my personal opinion, by the way. I mean, green is good for the planet with regards to not only that but jobs. I mean, we have so many, because now here we're sitting in a thing where we're coming up on population. Population is increasing on an enormous rate, and we cannot rely on the old and tried, what used to be true methodologies to support our people, if you will, from an economic standpoint. We need to look for new opportunities that are sustainable. And here is, by the way, an industry where, for one, I look at the 411 on 420. That's why we're here. We look at the economics of just recreational. That's creating, in the state of Washington, thousands of jobs. Not only thousands, probably tens of thousands of jobs from grow, process, and retail. Now we throw in medicinal, and we add another percentage point on there. I don't know what that percentage is, but it's going to be incremental, just to add to, because we're increasing more opportunity.
Just another component.
Exactly. But then now we throw in industrial hemp, and that actually is a no-brainer, by the way, because it really shouldn't be there, as we've talked about here in this show. So the exponential number of jobs and opportunities and ways to create easy access to an industry, because we're talking about not a complicated crop to grow.
No, we're talking about a turnkey solution for practically every area.
I mean, really, let's step back for a second. And I'm going to take a break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll talk about what it takes to actually grow industrial hemp, so that you can see the simplicity of what we're talking about versus the complexity of the DuPont solution, or, if you will, the industrial complex solution.
Let's take a deep breath.
Okay. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional
and I'm
in cannabis.
In cannabis. I'm Amy Ansel, your partner strategist in cannabis.
We'll be right back after these short messages.
AimBiz.com brings you the life of a business website. The majority of business websites can't be found by search engines, so their owners lose customers and money. An AIM business website wins new customers on Google and Facebook. Imagine your website with great content management, an integrated blog, clean designs, and clear messages. To top it off, at AimBiz.com, you get a free website design mock-up before you ever spend a dime. For more information, go to AimBiz.com. That's AIMBIZ.com.
Sweatman Young is proud to celebrate 25 years of construction service throughout South Puget Sound, working together with you to guarantee your satisfaction and offer you a unique 2-year warranty on all work. Let Sweatman Young build your new dream home, remodel your existing home, add an additional deck, outdoor kitchen, a man cave, or even preserve your historic home. Sweatman Young provides the best construction value in South Puget Sound. Visit sweatmanyoung.com today and schedule your free consultation with Bill Sweatman, your personal professional contractor.
Ever get a traffic ticket? Had a bill you couldn't collect? Had a contract you needed advice about, such as a new insurance plan, home, or car loan? We run into these situations routinely throughout our lives. We know we need legal advice, but feel we just can't afford hiring an expensive attorney to help. Legal Shield and your legal team is now your affordable option, allowing each of us to rest assured we can quickly get the help we need for one low monthly fee. Whether it's business or personal legal advice, visit yourlegalteam.info today.
Welcome back to the 411 on 420. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis.
And I'm Amy Ansel, your cannabis partner strategist.
Hey, thanks for joining us every Saturday from noon to 1 when we talk about the business of cannabis and helping you with the news and information you can use to make informed decisions about a product that is growing and budding in industry and across the planet.
That's right. Products and services, how to navigate all that.
You can check us out on the 411 go to 411 on 420.biz and check out our podcast and go to our Facebook page, look us up on Facebook, like us and all that kind of stuff. Tell us what you're thinking about to info at 411 on 420.biz. Let us know what you're thinking. Give us your thoughts and your opinions and so forth.
Yeah, we want to hear from you.
Exactly. But we are talking about today with Scott. We're here with Scott STAFNE. We're talking about the industrial hemp. We're talking about growing it. We're talking about what it can do for the planet, what it can do for your economics for your community, and so forth. And before the break, what we talked about was basically how to grow it. So let's talk about that. What do you need to grow it, and how big a plot do you need to grow it, and how much opportunity? So if we go into that, Scott, what do you know about that?
That it's kind of like weed. It grows very easily, and
well, it's called weed.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and poorly, by the way, because they do that for the psychotropic one, but this is not. There is absolutely no psychotropic, no hallucinogenic, no effect whatsoever.
This is like hay and alfalfa, and so we were talking about legislation currently pending in the Washington legislature, and I think we're saying, hey, look, you can grow it here, you can grow it here easily. It's a cash crop. It's the wave of the future.
But what does it take to grow it? Let's talk about that. I mean, let's
take water. It takes soil.
And how much? How much? Let's say infrastructure to put this all together. If I'm going to go out and I'm going to say, I want to take my 5 acres, my 10 acres, my 100 acres, my 1,000 acres, whatever I have, and I'm saying I want to use that to start and create industrial hemp as a crop on my land. What do I need to do to move forward? I just need to plow the land. I need to throw some seeds down and water it. And it's not about, I don't have to worry about bugs. I don't have to worry about stuff because you're just going to chop it down and press it and churn it up and do whatever you're going to do to process it, right? You're not trying to get it under the perfect light. You're not trying to get...
Well, and you're not concerned about the strains or the strength of the fiber, right? You're just really looking for a nice, hearty grow.
Well, I'm pretty sure that we could probably think about that as what kind of fiber we're going to do it to crossbreed those things so we get stronger fibers and things like that.
Or a looser one for silk.
Exactly. I mean, those are opportunities, but it sounds to me for genetic engineering of a plant, which they do from the other perspective, from the recreational side. But as just a normal layperson that wants to grow some to say, I want to go out and have a crop, and every 90 days I'm going to be harvesting.
So 4 times a year, rumor has it, for an acre and a half, you can power your house and car. Is that true?
That's not bad.
That's great. I don't know if it's true though.
Well, there's some processes along with that, I'm sure. But here's the deal. It doesn't take any real effort because this stuff grows without a lot of tending. That's pretty much
true. I do know that.
So,
but it's a laborious process to actually cultivate it. There's lots of
you're talking about just to take
in
it
the
down.
thrashing floor, right?
Well, no, they've got machines for that. We got machines for all that now. I mean, we can, I'm seeing the machines and so forth. They'll wipe it all down and take it out and replant again.
Well, don't you think that, Scott, wouldn't you say that the biggest obstacle for manufacturing domestically is the competition where, someone's paying minimum wage here and someone overseas is getting paid 50 cents a day. Here we're insuring our workers somewhere else, not the case.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem to growing hemp is the laws.
Okay. So it's truly illegal. It's not psychotropic, and it is truly illegal from...
Yeah, it's hard to even understand how you would have recreational pot be legal so people get high, and the stuff that won't make you high and can feed the horses and do a whole lot of good for the state is illegal. I mean, what's wrong with this picture?
It seems so unpatriotic. So what else is possible?
you can legalize it and let people grow it.
Well, that's true. But I think the big thing is what we need to do is we need to get people. We're educating people to understand what's happening, but what people can do, as currently these new laws are being discussed in the state of Washington, and I'm sure if they're not being discussed in your state or whatever, they should be being discussed in your state.
Yeah, this is a sense of urgency. I hope people can really feel our passion for what is possible, because we do have the law.
Well, I'm just saying we're reporting on this thing, and so you need to, hey, if you think that, yay or nay, if you don't believe that this is true and you need to, and we think that it's something that needs to be stopped and we shouldn't be doing and so forth, then go for it, man. You need to make your voice be heard as well. But
right.
if you think, if you think that if it should go forward, then you should need to make your voice be heard as well, because
it's the will of the people. That's the bottom line.
And it is. It really is. And it's all about involvement. I mean, we talked about this in the past, Scott, you and I.
Right.
I've talked about the fact that apathy is the greatest, I guess it would be, is the greatest source of opportunity for corporate business, for large industry, because the more apathetic, the less knowledge that people have, the more that they can control the direction of their profits and their opportunities. And I'm not trying to be, we shouldn't be profitable or anything like that. I think that it's just that we're here to talk about what's good and what's right. So if you have a thought or a process or an idea, and you're against industrial hemp, or you're against cannabis in any way, shape, or form, then you need to be heard just as much as the people that are for it.
Right. I would like to know, Scott, what do you think about the government being for it in a time when we were at war, hemp for victory, and when the government was heavily advertising for
When was that?
growing.
When was that, Amy?
Hemp for victory?
Yes.
Oh, which war was that? Get back to me. I'll let you know. I'm going to Google it right now.
Okay, and so you remember this from a conversation I think it was World War II.
Well, I've just seen the Hemp for Victory on YouTube many times, and it was 1942 initially.
It was World War II.
Produced by the Department of Agriculture. Produced by the Department of Agriculture, right there. Oh, wow.
Well, it just shows you how governments can be manipulated. But that's something that I think you and Daryl were both talking about. I mean, if people want to see change, if they don't like what's going on in this area or other areas, they've got to get out of their chairs, they've got to stand up, and they got to get their feet on the ground and do something. Because you can go to your municipalities like Tacoma where they're considering this plant, or you can go to your state legislators and talk to them. My understanding is that for every person that actually contacts a legislator, they consider that there's probably 250 other people out there. So if we want to do some good, and if we've got ideas that we want to promote, it does take getting out of our seat, away from the TV, and making our opinion known.
But doesn't it also think people they're apathetic in other ways too? Because with Citizens United, people believe that it's if you don't provide the money, then it doesn't matter what you say.
Right. It's like free speech in the age of noise.
Okay. Yeah, because you can. It's just white noise. Because the only thing that really counts is if you're going to talk to me, start showing me how you can do that. It better be in the form of cash.
Yeah, that everything slides toward the money.
And why is that? Because if you're thinking about that, those people are apathetic because they see that constantly. And we need to change that by saying get up and the more people that get up and get out and vote and be involved, the more opportunity, the more things will change.
Well,
and I'm not trying to be. We're not trying to be a political movement here. I mean, that's just a reality from an economic
patriotic
and
music.
But it's a business. It's actually if you want to change
it. You
it.
have to somewhat be a political movement. I mean, I may be a little radical, but I think it's kind of time to end the two-party tyranny.
Hey, it's a patriotic movement.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'd like to see America America like it was when I was growing up. I'm sick of the empire that exists now. It's all about the 1%.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I think that back, and this is just me, in my opinion and so forth, that people always harken back to the, when I was growing up. Well, I had a really good time when I was growing up, but I think that this whole empirical issue and so forth has been going on for centuries. I don't think it's been happening. I don't think it just is an opportunity that just came out the other day, because we wouldn't have had the Glass-Steagall Act. We wouldn't have had all of the things, the crash in 29. We wouldn't have had the Boston Tea Party. We wouldn't have had all these other things in our history if we had an economy that was fair.
People said enough is enough. I say we bring back 1942 hemp for victory. Let's stand with the government from 1942.
Well, that makes sense.
That is an opportunity for people to get out there and really. But if looking at this today, again, House Bill 1552, House Bill 1268, and Senate Bill 5012 are all talking about industrial hemp. 1552 again is the rules and regulations by Department of Agriculture to manage that, and they want to even think about doing it under the Department of Agriculture, or they're even discussing it to going under Liquor Cannabis Board. Hey. We want rules, we want all that kind of stuff, but keep it under ag. It makes sense.
It makes sense. In 1942, Department of Ag put out the video explaining all the ways and encouraging farmers how to grow it.
Yeah, put it back where it was.
Put it back where it was.
Okay, and then same thing with 1268, which is again, can we feed our cows and stuff without having any quote unquote harm to the body or anything like that? Because really, that's what it's coming down to. People are thinking that, oh my gosh, if we feed it to our animals, is it going to come back to us?
I hope it does.
Well, that's an opinion that you have, but I mean...
Well, yeah, but I'd rather have that than GMO or antibiotics that they're pumping them through.
They're drawing a straight line from, again, like we talked on other shows.
That's my opinion.
They're drawing other shows. I mean, drawing straight lines from other shows, if you will, from turning hemp into cannabis into drug, and it's really not. That's the point.
Yeah,
it's not.
It is.
It's hay. It's alfalfa. It's just a freaking feed in that regard. So make it a feed. And that's a positive note. So let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Senate Bill 5012 is an unfunded mandate, so to speak, to say, let's study this, and until we get it studied, we're not going to do anything about it to see if it's a viable crop.
That sounds very ambiguous and ignorant in regards to what our history and research shows.
But what it does is it's a stalling tactic, like Scott said.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a stalling tactic, and it's just another way from a political to make a political stalemate, a political stalling opportunity.
Well, it says it's unfunded, so who's really funding it?
That means nothing. It means that we passed it, and we're not going to do anything until we see the results of the study. If the study never gets done because it's never been funded, then we can't make a decision.
Right.
Got it.
So that's why you don't fund it. If you wanted it, as we talked earlier in the show, if you wanted it funded, if you actually wanted a decision, you'd say, pull the money from here, put the money in that,
right.
give us a result by here,
right.
And just like any other business would do, wouldn't you think? Is I want to know the answer, so give it to me in a few weeks.
Let's get these sequences on, in action.
Now, I spoke with somebody the other day, and they literally said, is it viable as a crop? And Senate Bill is you don't need a study. All you really need to do is go out to see what are the rules and agricultural rules. How do we manage corn as a crop in the U.S., in the state of Washington, and so forth. And you take those rules and you say, okay, put those up in Word and do a remove and replace.
Well, I have to say,
put industrial hemp in place of corn, and then you now have your study is complete.
So we're talking about food. I get it. Fabric. I'm a huge proponent of fashion, and what hemp cloth.
Imagine that from a woman.
Okay. Just the whole idea of hemp being a more superior material than cotton. I had no idea. I literally had no idea.
Not only that, but it's easier to pick.
I would assume so, but that really is exciting to me that it makes wonderful bed linens. It's silky, and it's longer lasting, where cotton pills, and
there's a lot of different benefits, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I just think that if people that have not experienced it, and the way that it occurs to them is just by what they hear or what they don't know.
What's interesting is we briefly talked about essential oils,
mm-hmm.
And the cannabinoids and the essential oils and so forth that the hemp plant does provide. There's nutritional value in there with the fatty acids, the omega-3s, the protein, the calcium, the iron. All those things come from an extraction of industrial hemp.
Sounds like a dietary supplement.
It actually is. I actually take these things.
Well, if we
really
did
weird.
lift the ban, just think about all the countries out there that could eat these hemp hearts, eat this as protein sources and actually revitalize and thrive as a community.
And easily grown and distributed. Paper. How many trees do we knock down? And everybody says that. I'm saving paper so I don't kill a tree. What I mean?
Then you see like a stack of Victoria's Secret catalogs on their on their table.
Maybe you do.
No, you won't.
I think that's actually funny. But anyway, Scott, so thank you so much. This has been really enlightening and so forth. So where do you think we go from here, Scott, besides getting out there and knocking on the doors of our legislatures, which I think is one of the most important things out there?
Well, I think we talk to our farmers. I mean, we have in Washington, there are a number of, there's community-supported agriculture. I know a number of organic farmers. I mean, I know a number of people that really want to promote our agricultural industry, and we talk to them. We see what they support, and I have talked to many of them, and I know that they're in favor of being allowed to grow their stuff. And it makes no sense, as you say, to have the Liquor Control Board regulating industrial hemp any more than we want them regulating hay and alfalfa. I mean, to the extent the Department of Agriculture does regulate other crops, it should do so for this, but no more, and perhaps less. I don't. But I mean, there's nothing about industrial hemp that would require all this commotion, except for the fact that it's been forced to slide to the money, so to protect other people who want to make plastics and continue our gas-based economy.
You talked about that, and we also talked about you and I talked earlier about the importing and the legal research that you've done and so forth, and the fact that North Dakota had actually wanted to grow industrial hemp. What occurred there?
Well, basically, there are a number of court cases. There was one in California, and the Hemp Industries Association brought a declaratory judgment against the DEA because they wanted to be allowed to have seeds and stalks and be legal. And in fact, the law said they were, and that's why we can have hemp oil and products. And so the Ninth Circuit said that, yes, those were not covered and those were not made illegal. And then several years later, you had a decision out of in 2009, out of the Eighth Circuit, Monsoon versus DEA, where North Dakota passed a law that actually said, okay, you can grow hemp, much like we're talking about doing now. And the Eighth Circuit said, no, even though the stalks and seeds are okay, in order to grow industrial hemp, you would have to grow parts of the plant that may have some of the THC. And
yeah, it's hard to grow a plant without the leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
Just saying. I saw that when I was in 6th grade or something like that.
Yeah, and so what did that do? It makes us so that we have to import all our products. Now that's real.
Isn't that, I'm sorry, but that's asinine. The whole concept of you can have the stems and seeds, but no leaves for you.
Yeah,
so, in other words, if you can figure out a way to grow that stuff without leaves, you're in. I mean, basically, that's what we're talking about. Am I missing something on that one?
No, I think you're exactly right. And why did it come about? It came about because not because there was anything wrong with hemp or industrial hemp, but because people wanted to make money on other products, so they wanted to outlaw the use of hemp in the United States to benefit moneyed interests. You said, it's always been that way, and it's time to stop. It's time for us to really look at this thing, and it seems to have become a spiritual movement, because there's so many people like us and others that, we get it. We get what's going on. It's like, when Martin Luther King was talking about segregation, people got it. And it was just the government that wasn't getting it. And that's what's going on now. And I think, there's a spiritual movement afoot to get government out of the way of the people's rights. I mean, our rights come from our Creator. And they're not about.
Well, actually, they put that in our. Didn't they put that in our Constitution? What's
the Declaration of Independence?
And that's it. The Declaration of Independence.
Yes.
It is. It's the first one, isn't it? Freedom of religion.
Yes, freedom of but that's of the Bill of Rights.
Oh, the Bill of Rights. I'm sorry.
Part of the Constitution, but I mean.
That's why I have you on this show, by the way, because. Because I know these things, but I get them mixed up. So, from the Constitution, freedom of religion. From
the Declaration of Independence.
So, but back from the Constitution, where was it again?
Pursuit of happiness. And then somehow it got changed in the Constitution to life, liberty, and property. But it's interesting because the term pursuit of happiness actually had a societal context at the time it was written in the Declaration of Independence. It meant that the society as a whole had a measure of happiness that we haven't seen in America for years.
Decades.
It's incredible that we put up with the manipulation of our government, and the only way we're going to change that is by getting involved. People get the government they deserve and the laws they deserve. So if you believe you deserve better, then we need to start doing something.
So, as Amy was saying, it's been decades.
Yeah, or as you were saying, perhaps centuries.
Oh, yeah, it could be. It's been, which is decades.
This word comes to my mind, treason, and treason is the crime of betraying one's country. And I just think that with this whole industrial hemp movement, in exploring it with you, Scott, it just feels like not a feeling, but a knowing and facts. The patriotic thing to do is to release the stronghold on industrial hemp. And if everybody can look at these House bills that you're talking about and that we're discussing today, we really do have a fighting chance at revitalizing our nation.
Well, it's got to start somewhere.
It always starts with a spark. Yeah. And you're a very large spark in that, Scott. Thank you so much.
Well, hey, listen, we got to say thanks for joining us today. I know your time is short, and you have done a very marvelous job of coming to us and talking to us about our constitutional issues, about industrial hemp and what it's got, and where it lies in a legal perspective with regards to each of these issues. Now, again, there are people out there right now, and we hope to have them on the show very shortly, who are out there lobbying for those issues to be either passed or revised or whatever, and they're doing what they need to do to make things happen. And anyway, so Scott, how do people get a hold of you? So let's talk about that real quick.
They could call me at my law practice.
Or, what's your website? What's your website that you want to go to? Because that's the easiest one. Everybody remembers that better.
Yeah, it's STAFNElawfirm.com, but if you want to...
And that's that's STAFNE lawfirm.com?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you want to know what I'm thinking about... and
you have your own radio show, by the way.
I do have a radio show, but I also have a blog at scottstaffney.com.
Okay,
And-
fantastic. Is that 2 T's?
Yes.
Scott.
2 T's, 1 F.
ScottStaffney.com. Hey, well, thanks
no
for joining
Y.
it. Thanks for joining us today. We are really happy to have had you. We have to sign off right now because time is short, and we've got things that we need to do, and I know you need to do because you are a busy individual. But hey, go out, knock them dead, and thanks again. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis.
And I'm Amy Ansel, your cannabis partner strategist.
Long ago, when these ancient Grecian temples were new, hemp was already old in the service of mankind. For thousands of years even then, this plant had been grown for cordage and coarse cloth in China and elsewhere in the East. For centuries prior to about 1850, all the ships that sailed the western seas were rigged with hempen rope and sails. For the sailor, no less than the hangman, hemp was indispensable. A 44-gun frigate, like our cherished old Ironsides, took over 60 tons of hemp for rigging. Including an anchor cable 25 inches in circumference. The Conestoga wagons and prairie schooners of pioneer days were covered with hempen canvas. Indeed, the very word canvas comes from the Arabic word for hemp. In those days, hemp was an important crop in Kentucky and Missouri. Then came cheaper imported fibers for cordage, like jute, sisal, and manila hemp, and the culture of hemp in America declined. But now, with Philippine and East Indian sources of hemp in the hands of the Japanese, and shipment of jute from India curtailed, American hemp must meet the needs of our Army and Navy as well as of our industries. In 1942, patriotic farmers at the government's request planted 36,000 acres of seed hemp, an increase of several thousand%. The goal for 1943 is 50,000 acres of seed hemp. In Kentucky, much of the seed hemp acreage is on river bottom land such as this, along the Kentucky River Gorge. Some of these fields are inaccessible except by boat. Thus, plans are afoot for a great expansion of the hemp industry as a part of the war program. This film is designed to tell farmers how to handle this ancient crop, now little known outside Kentucky and Wisconsin. This is hemp seed. Be careful how you use it. For to grow hemp legally, you must have a federal registration and tax stamp. This is provided for in your contract. Ask your AAA committeeman or your county agent about it. Don't forget, hemp demands a rich, well-drained soil such as is found here in the bluegrass region of Kentucky or in central Wisconsin. It must be loose and rich in organic matter. Poor soils won't do. Soil that will grow good corn will usually grow hemp. Hemp is not hard on the soil. In Kentucky, it has been grown for several years on the same ground, though this practice is not recommended. A dense and shady crop, hemp tends to choke out weeds. Here's a Canada thistle that couldn't stand the competition. Dead as a dodo. Thus, hemp leaves the ground in good condition for the following crop. For fiber, hemp should be sown 5 pecks to the acre. With drill, the closer the rows, the better. These rows are spaced about 4 inches. This hemp has been broadcast. Either way, it should be sown thick enough to grow a slender stalk. Here's an ideal stand, the right height to be harvested easily, thick enough to grow slender stalks that are easy to cut and process. Stalks like these here on the left, they yield the most fiber and the best. Those on the right are too coarse and woody. For seed, hemp is planted in hills like corn, sometimes by hand. Hemp is a dioecious plant. The female flower is inconspicuous, but the male flower is easily spotted. In seed production, after the pollen has been shed, these male plants are cut out. These are the seeds on a female plant. Hemp for fiber is ready to harvest when the pollen is shedding and the leaves are falling. In Kentucky, hemp harvest comes in August. Here, the old standby has been the self-rake reaper, which has been used for a generation or more. Hemp grows so luxuriantly in Kentucky that harvesting is sometimes difficult, which may account for the popularity of the self-rake with its lateral stroke. A modified rice binder has been used to some extent. This machine works well in average hemp. Recently, the improved hemp harvester, used for many years in Wisconsin, has been introduced in Kentucky. This machine spreads the hemp in a continuous swath. It is a far cry from this fast and efficient modern harvester to the Armstrong model of yore. But here's one kind of harvester, at least, that doesn't stall in the heaviest hemp. In Kentucky, hand cutting is practiced in opening fields for the machines. In Kentucky, hemp is shucked as soon as safe after cutting, to be spread out for retting later in the fall. In Wisconsin, hemp is harvested in September. Here, the hemp harvester with automatic spreader is standard equipment. Note how smoothly the rotating apron lays the swath preparatory to retting. Here it is a common and essential practice to leave headlands around hemp fields. These strips may be planted to other crops, preferably small grain. Thus, the harvester has room to make its first round without preparatory hand cutting. Here the machine is running over corn stubble. When the cutter bar is much shorter than the hemp is tall, overlapping occurs. Not so good for retting. The standard cut is 8 to 9 feet. The length of time hemp is left on the ground to ret depends on the weather. The swaths must be turned to get a uniform ret. When the woody core breaks away readily, like this, the hemp is about ready to take up and bind into bundles. Well-retted hemp is light to dark gray. The fiber tends to pull away from the stalk. The presence of stalks in the bowstring stage indicates that retting is well underway. When hemp is short or tangled, or when the ground is too wet for machines, it is bound by hand. A wooden buck is used. Twine will do for tying, but the hemp itself makes a good band. When conditions are favorable, the pickup binder is commonly used. The swaths should lie smooth and even with stalks parallel. The picker won't work well in tangled hemp. After binding, hemp is shucked as soon as possible to stop further retting. In 1942, 14,000 acres of fiber hemp were harvested in the United States. The goal for 1943 is 300,000 acres. Thus, hemp, Cannabis sativa, the old standby cordage fiber, is staging a strong comeback. This is Kentucky hemp going into the dryer of a mill at Versailles. In the old days, breaking was done by hand, one of the hardest jobs known to man. Now the power breaker makes quick work of it. Spinning American hemp into rope, yarn, or twine in the old Kentucky River Mill at Frankfort, Kentucky. Another pioneer plant that has been making cordage for more than a century. All such plants will presently be turning out products spun from American-grown hemp. Twine of various kinds for tying, winding armatures, and upholsterers' work. Rope for marine rigging and towing, for hay forks, derricks, and heavy-duty tackle. Light-duty fire hose. Thread for shoes for millions of American soldiers. And parachute webbing for our paratroopers. As for the United States Navy, every battleship requires 34,000 feet of rope, and other craft accordingly. So here in the Boston Navy Yard, where cables for frigates were made long ago, crews are now working night and day making cordage for the fleet. In the old days, rope yarn was spun by hand. Today, even the rope walk is mechanized. 160 fathoms to go. The rope yarn feeds through holes in an iron plate. This is Manila hemp from the Navy's rapidly dwindling reserve. When that is gone, American hemp will go on duty again. Hemp for mooring ships, hemp for tow lines. Hemp for tackle and gear. Hemp for countless naval uses, both on ship and shore. Just as in the days when old Ironside sailed the seas victorious, with her hempen shrouds and hempen sails. Hemp for victory.